I'm here on the outskirts of Atlanta in front of one of Georgia Right to Life's new billboards. You can see it behind me there. It says black children are an endangered species, and it's got the photo of a small black child's face with tears in his eyes. Obviously a very emotionally evocative ad. The organization has spent over $20,000 to date in the state of Georgia on the campaign.
Here in Georgia for the last several years, the numbers of abortions on black women have met or exceeded 15,000 to 18,000 now a year. 100% of the clinics in this state are in urban areas where blacks reside. Black women were going to those clinics more than anyone else, and I believe it's because they were being targeted.
So it's a genocide just like Hitler, just like Rwanda, just like the KKK?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, there's been more black babies aborted in America in the last 37 years than the KKK was able to kill in 144 years.
Next, I drove 30 miles southwest to the city of Atlanta. My destination was the office of Loretta Ross, who's one of the leading scholars of the racial politics of reproductive rights in the United States. When I first asked her what she thought of the billboards, if there was something fishy behind the placement of abortion clinics in black neighborhoods, she appeared to agree with Ms. Davis from the Georgia Pro-Life Group.
We always have to take a racial analysis on why we're discouraged from having children by some people and then encouraged by others. And I think that's where the Black Right to Lifers get some things right. They understand that there are social pressures to discourage black births. There's always an intersection of race and reproductive politics in this country. So I would suspect that we do share a suspicion of population control policies. We share a critique of the eugenics movement. We always don't necessarily assume that the medical profession has our best interests at heart.
Notice Ms. Ross said the pro-life movement got some things right.
I think the best way to fight population control, to fight genocide, is to make sure that the objects of that genocide or that control make those decisions for themselves. We have very different solutions for what should be done. For me, it is about the authority and the autonomy and the empowerment of African American women. She wants to treat black women like we're children, so that the state has to make the decision for us whether or not we have babies.
When you have young girls who choose to date a black man, young white girls dating a young black man, she gets pregnant, should she be forced to terminate the life of her baby because the father is black? Because her parents are saying, you won't bring that little black so-and-so into my house? That happened here in Georgia. If there is a discriminatory motive behind the abortion industry, behind why this physician is performing the abortion, then he or she should be held accountable for that.
That's the idea behind a new bill that Georgia Right to Life is supporting, that would make it illegal to solicit an abortion based on the gender or race of the fetus. I scheduled an interview with the congressman who's sponsoring the bill, Barry Loudermilk. His aide asked if I was reporting for a pro-choice paper, and I had to say yes. Whether or not this was why Representative Loudermilk didn't show up to the interview, even though I waited for over an hour, I'll never know. I did get a chance to talk with Congressman Billy Mitchell, who opposes the bill. I asked him how solicitation of abortion can be enforced by the law.
You know, that's a very good question, and as a matter of fact, that's one of our arguments against the legislation. It's going to place those physicians in a very difficult situation who are not lawyers themselves. As a matter of fact, an aspect of the bill would place violations under the Racketeering Act. The onerous provisions of the bill would place physicians in a very difficult situation of breaking the law, but the added measures of being gangsters, if you will, for participating in this practice.
Now that I'd heard from both advocates and politicians, I needed to hear how the Black church felt about the billboards and the proposed legislation.
Most of these folk who are behind these billboards, they're not pro-life. They're pro-birth, but they're not pro-life. They don't care what happens to the child once the child gets here. We want to make sure that we go from the cradle to the grave. that we are concerned about a child not only being born, but living a healthy and productive life.
Clinics are placed where there's needs. I mean, you don't place a grocery store 20 miles from where people need food. There's a business model logic here, not a racial logic here. And so it's ridiculous for them to claim that there's this targeting of the black community because of our race. If there is proximity of the clinics, it's because of the need. We have higher incidences of unplanned pregnancy. We have higher needs for reproductive health care, STD screening, dealing with a whole lot of other issues that services like the clinics provide. But to assume that black women are suddenly the architects of our own self-genocide because we choose to use abortion and family planning, that's chasing a red herring without really addressing the real medical issues that we need to be talking about, the healthcare disparities in our community. Because our very real issues and our very real problems are getting neglected and sidelined around a sensationalist of these absurd charges of genocide.
Meanwhile, Catherine Davis says her efforts have been so successful that the campaign has plans to bring its billboards to 10 different states across the country, from California to Washington, D.C. The Radiance Foundation, which designed the billboards, is running a highly produced web-based social network to advance their message to the rest of the country.